Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to show you guys whatever I make throughout the week. So I've got some onions, carrots, potatoes, eggplant, and some massaman curry and coconut milk. So I essentially cook everything in one pot. I start by boiling the water and then adding the carrots, onions and potatoes and some salt. Then I toss in the curry paste, then the eggplants, then the coconut milk, and just let it all cook in one pot. And this is what I end up with. Super delicious, and you can serve this on top of some white rice as well if you like. This next meal is super delicious and easy as well. I've got some mashed potatoes, some sauteed spinach, and some prawns, which I've cooked in a bit of butter, garlic, smoked paprika, salt, and that's pretty much it. Super easy and delicious. The next meal is also relatively easy. I've got some instant noodles, mushrooms, baby spinach, prawns, which I have peeled and deveined. I also utilize the shells by making a broth. So I just take the prawn shells, add it to some salted water, bring it to a boil, then strain the shells out, and then add in my instant noodles and the rest of the instant noodle seasoning to the pot. Now, if I was making this off camera, I would just saute the veggies and the prawns all in one pot, but because I need to make it look a little bit more presentable on camera, I'm cooking each ingredient individually just so it's easier for me to present, to make it more presentable. But like I said, if I wasn't filming this, I'll just toss all of the ingredients in one pot with the instant noodles. So this process on camera is a little bit tedious, just so I can present it like this for you guys on camera, and then I pour the stock on top. So that is the finished product. One of the nights I was walking around the city and popped by, I think, Coles to pick up some lamb cutlets because I was craving it. So my partner and I had this as a little late night snack. I've just cooked it and lightly seasoned it with some salt and I think rosemary or thyme. So this wasn't a meal, it was just a snack. This next meal is also really simple and delicious. I've got some spring onions from the freezer, some prawns which I've chopped up into chunks, some minced garlic, butter, salt, eggs, and some white rice. So I start by adding a little bit of butter and olive oil and the garlic in the pot just to cook it down a little. Then I toss in the prawns, which cook in no time at all because I've chopped them up into smaller chunks. So once that's cooked, I actually take it out, put it into a bowl whilst I prepare the eggs. I did add in a bit of salt to the prawns throughout the cooking process, but the prawns have a natural sweetness to them anyways. The eggs, I've just added in a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of water just to loosen it up a little bit. And then once I take the prawns out, add in a little bit of olive oil, toss the eggs in. It's kind of like an egg omelette slash scramble. I've also added some spring onions to the egg, which I feel like makes a huge difference, but if you don't have spring onions, you can just leave it out. And then once the eggs are 70% cooked, I toss the prawns back in, pop the lid back on so it finishes the cooking process. And that's what the finished product looks like. You can have it on its own. If I were to cut my carbs, I would have it on its own, but that day I had it with rice. I also picked up some of these pastries from my local Asian grocer. I think it was a black sesame pastry and a taro pastry. So that was quite yummy. I also started experimenting with these soft shell crabs that I got from Costco. They come pre-packaged and frozen. If you haven't checked out my Costco video yet, please go and check that out. I go through the pricing and the products that I got. So once the crab has defrosted, as per instructions on YouTube, I've cut off the eyes and the mouth of the soft shell crab. Then you need to remove these dead man fingers, which is essentially the crab's lungs. So these bits here that I'm pointing to, they're not very tasty and you shouldn't be eating them because that's where the crab filters water, I believe. And then once you've removed those lungy bits, flip the crab over, remove the apron. I lightly seasoned it with a bit of smoked paprika, salt, and cornstarch. Then I tossed it in my air fryer, and that's what it came out like. Next meal, I am cooking down some chicken thighs as usual. I don't use any oil because chicken thigh is quite fatty. I just lightly season it with salt, then cook it on the fat side down. And then I flip it, and then it just generates so much oil, and that's what I used to cook with instead of adding more oil in. So I've got some broccoli, carrots, onions. The sauce, I just had some soy sauce, garlic, honey, a little bit of salt, a little bit of oyster sauce, and I think that's pretty much it. Once the chicken's cooked, I pull it out, and I'm about to show you guys how much fat came out of the chicken thighs. That is why I don't add any additional fat, but those bits down the bottom are usually quite tasty. So I add in my carrots and my onions, scrape the bottom of the pot to add all of that flavor. Once that cooks down, I do add in the broccoli as well. Let that cook down as well. Sometimes I'll add in frozen green beans, but on this particular day I did not. Once that's probably about 50% cooked, I add in the chicken, add in additional probably about a quarter cup of water, then pop the lid back on just so the broccoli steams 100% through, and then I make a cornstarch slurry with the sauce and add it to the pot, and this is what the finished product looks like. It looks like a little bit on the light end for the sauce, but I found it super tasty. So if you want it a bit darker, you can add in dark soy. Next meal, I've actually got some spinach that I'm just sauteing in some water, poured it out, popped it in a bowl. In this plate here, I've got some grilled chicken with Moroccan seasoning and smoked paprika, popped it to the side. That's going to be one of my meals for throughout the week. So I've got a white wrap with a bit of cheese. Then I'm tossing in some of the slices of the Moroccan chicken thighs. You can leave the chicken out and add in zucchini or like grilled eggplant as well if you like. Then I pop in some of the sauteed spinach. You don't need to saute the spinach in advance, but I just prefer doing this because I like my spinach well cooked. And you can also add in some tomatoes as well if you like, but I think we forgot to grab some. So this is pretty much it for lunch. So you can add this with a bit of hot sauce as well if you like. I just liked having it as is. I find this meal is really good for summer because it's quite light and not too heavy. You can have a garden salad on the side of the toasted wraps as well if you like. Next meal, I've got some onions, carrot, broccoli stalks, mushroom, rump steak, and some black pepper beef. So I start by trimming off the fatty bits and then rendering that down. So I've got some beef fat oil to use for my cooking. So once I take out the fat chunks, I add in my onions and carrots and kind of caramelize that down a little bit with a little sprinkle of salt, and I start tossing in my beef and cooking that down as well. This is the black pepper sauce that I'm going to be using. I love the Lee Kum Kee brand. So once all of my veggies and meats are cooked, I toss in the sauce and mix that through and serve this delicious black pepper beef on top of some white steamed rice. Next meal, I've got some Shin ramen because I'm having a bit of a lazy night, and some beef strips. That's the rump beef strips I got from Aldi, and I'm essentially just cooking some of the beef with my instant ramen and turning that into a quick late night lazy meal. Sometimes I like to toss in a poached egg as well. And seeing as I paid $4.50 for a kilo of oranges, I thought I'd feature a little clip in my video. But that wraps up my video for the week, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.